You're listening to Life with Mary Walter.
Life with Mary Walter.
And welcome to Life with Mary Walter. I am Mary Walter, and joining me as my guest co-host tonight is Bobby Burack from Outkick. Thank you for coming back. It's great to have you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mary. I know we teased this last time I was on. It seems like so many things have changed, but even more crazy than last time. So glad to be back with you tonight.
Yeah, so glad you're here. It was so funny before we went to the beginning of the countdown of the show, the two of us were going like this about politics. We had to get it out of our systems. We can't help ourselves. We have to get it out. So
Yeah, it's almost like going to a family reunion and like you're in the car, you gotta get all your political opinions out before you enter the room. So that's what I try to do tonight.
Exactly. If you're new to the podcast, please subscribe to the channel. Please you can go back and watch other episodes of Life with Mary Walter. Also, the Thursday night podcast is Mary Walter Radio. That's our political podcast. So please go back and look at the old episodes as well. We really, really appreciate it. One other thing is apparently, I didn't realize this, but when we were on Getter, when we first started on Getter, we were a beta tester. So we had, we were pulling in 1,500, 1,600 viewers in one shot. We're no longer, now everybody can have a video on Getter. It's not just beta testers anymore. So certain people. And because when I was away, I didn't do podcasts for like 2 days, 2 shows in a row or something like that. So it kicks you out of the algorithm. So tell your friends, because we need to get back into the algorithm. The algorithm kicked us out, and we went from 1,500, 1,600 viewers to like 123. So if you could tell your friends, get us back in the algorithm, that would be fantastic. Same thing happens on YouTube. I did not realize that. So apparently, if I'm going to be away, I have to now record a podcast to at least put something up, so that we don't keep getting kicked out of the algorithm if I'm skiing or, I'm going to a political event next month and it's on a Thursday night, so I won't be able to be here. So I'm going to have to record something to get it up there. I hate algorithms. My life is my computers. It's so annoying.
I know we teased giving Tinder advice on this show. Do we need to give algorithm advice first and foremost? Because in 2023, I think algorithms, Tinders, passwords are arguably the most important things going on, at least culturally.
So what are you trying to tell me?
I'll leave it at that.
I just hate that. Like, there's not even anyone you can complain to, because it's just a nameless, faceless, but it's that, I think that's what frustrates people more than anything. At least it frustrates me a whole lot. It makes me crazy.
I agree. Like when Twitter's going through all these changes and something doesn't work, like you naturally want to call the guy or call customer support.
Right.
But there is no customer support for tech stuff. Like if they ban you for no reason, there's no one to call and say, hey, what happened? Or can't get your money back or anything like that. It's just nothing. It happens. Like anonymous employees who we've never seen are making a lot of decisions about not only people's lives, but content, because content is money for a lot of people. So you just have random vultures who nobody knows deciding your income. Is really fascinating.
It's very, I know, actually talking to a human being and talking on a phone is so old people-ish, but there's a lot to be said for it, as far as, and I think it definitely takes down your frustration levels when you can actually make a phone call and speak to a human being because you're having a problem, and you don't get stuck in just this endless loop of like, oh, well, I guess I'll just sit and wait.
Definitely.
Until somebody helps me. Just a programming note, I will be in for David Webb again tomorrow on SiriusXM Patriot Channel 125, 9 a.m. to noon. Thursday is the Life with Mary Walter Radio Podcast, 7:15 Politics. I think we have a lot to talk about. Saturday, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show, 4:30 on Newsmax TV. It re-airs Sunday at 3:30, and then it re-airs Monday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. So 3 opportunities. Now, tonight, we were supposed to be joined by Sean Spicer. He was going to come on and talk about his children's book, and then he was totally game for non-political questions about, and I just had this whole list of questions about Sean, get to know him better. And it was going to be lighthearted and fun, and he was totally down for it. And then I talked to his people yesterday, and it's like, yeah, Trump's supposed to be indicted tomorrow. We may have to hold off on this because it could be crazy. We don't know. So now he's supposed to be on next Tuesday, the 28th. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to happen. But Trump's back in the news, so all bets are off. One of the things we like to do, also, you can get the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just go on and look for Life with Mary Walter or Mary Walter Radio, Life with Mary Walter if you want this podcast, Mary Walter Radio if you want the political podcast. But one thing, Bobby, I don't know if you remember, but the regulars here have a little tradition where they like to see who can get in first to make the first comment.
Yes.
Okay, Al at 7 o'clock, 15 minutes early. Al's a great guy. You can find him he's over on, he had got some kind of lifetime ban off of Twitter. I don't know what he did, but he is over on Truth Social. And I think he's Ozark Al. He's going to yell at me. I don't have it in front of me, Al. Put it up here if you want to follow Al. Bill is next. Now, I went to high school with this guy, Barry, from Brooklyn. Sai, his girlfriend, I guess. Sai says, "Hi, baby cakes and buttercup." Okay.
These guys got on here for me. I mean, Al got on at 7. I got on at like 7:10, so he beat me. That's a loyal listener.
Yeah, no, I think you were here a little bit earlier than that, but these guys are great. Al, Barry, I got Facebook jailed for saying we should bomb China's fentanyl labs. 30 days in the slammer for Barry. Honestly, I'm surprised Barry's made it this long based on some of the things that he posts. And Facebook just censors way more than Twitter now. Facebook is ridiculous with the sentencing. Oh, Al is Shaman Al. Or Shaman Al, depending on how you say it, on Truth Social. So he's got a lot. He posts a lot on there. So if you want to follow him. So, okay. The last time we spoke, we were having a lot of fun. And you brought up Tinder, which of course I've been married forever. So I know what Tinder is, but I don't understand the whole dating app thing because I think you wind up putting yourself through a lot of heartache and a lot of problems because when you meet somebody in person, you get to look at their face, you get a vibe from them that you don't get when you're online, that you're just swiping left or right and you're like, oh, this is what this person says they are. This is what they say their profile is. Okay, that sounds great. As opposed to meeting somebody in person. And I think I'm a firm believer, you can meet the one anywhere, grocery store, bar, from a friend's friend at a social event. You go to like a church function. I know that sounds corny, but in a town like mine with 3,500 people, the church is where all the social events happen because they have a parish center and they have a big parking lot. And that's where everything happens. So everybody comes, not just Catholics. Everybody comes to the event. So you can meet. We have a big fair. I know, again, sounds hokey, but at the Jersey Shore, all the fire departments have a fireman's fair, and you can go from one to the next, and they're just a fun, good family fun event. So I think you can meet someone anywhere. So the idea of swiping right or left, I just know so many people who have had zero luck with those things, and then they get ghosted. Like, I'm just not going to return your calls. Like, I think it's very impersonal. It's harder to do that to someone when you first meet them in person, I think.
Well, I think all that's true. But so I'm going to start this with a question. I know the answer because we talked about it on radio. Do you, Mary Walter, shop online?
For some clothing, yes.
Okay. So you can make that same case, right? Seeing it in person, trying it on is much more, advantageous. You get a better look of it, a better feel for it. Well, dating's the same way. But see, where people make a mistake is Tinder is like Amazon, like eBay, when people used to use eBay. The idea is to sell yourself, but the mistake that people make is they lie. When you're selling a product, like say you're selling an old, say you're selling a swing set, you don't want to lie and say it's much bigger than it is or that it's not broken somewhere, because then people return it. That's false advertisement. Same with Tinder, right? Like if you say you're 6'2" and end up 5'5", they'll just return you. They might meet you in person, but they're going to walk right out. So you can't lie, but you have to spin it a little bit. So maybe your swing set is rusted on the one edges. Well, maybe you just don't highlight that when you're taking the picture. You're not lying and saying no rust, but you just hide it. It's the same thing with Tinder. Say maybe your weaknesses are that you're short. Maybe you just take pictures of the chest up or the waist up. You're not showing how short you are. So the idea is not to lie, but position it like you're selling a product online. That product is you.
Hey, yeah, but how much truth is there in advertising? You know, as soon as, and the reason, here's one of the reasons I say it. So, you know, everybody knows I love my reality shows.
Mhm.
And one of the reality shows I like is the 90 Day franchise, the 90 Day Fiance. My husband and I were just watching 90 Day the other way, and we're saying to each other, Americans are stupid. Okay, number one, because they don't research these cultures they're moving to, and then they're shocked.
Yeah.
You know, when the women have to cover up, they're like, wait, what? Like, did you think they were just gonna let you walk around like Egypt like that, honey? Come on. But some of these women, like there's one woman who went to Tunisia to get her man, right? And she married him, and Rebecca, and she brought him back. But the pictures she was sending him were so like filtered and everything. You saw the pictures, and now she's all worried he's not gonna like her in person. I'm like, dude, like you tipped the first domino, you airbrushed the product a lot. So now you're going over there to meet him, and now you're afraid it's not going to work. Like, why do people put themselves in that position? I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Well, that's a big mistake, right? Using filters, because then you're making the product look better than it actually is. You want to show them the real product. But I also think, especially people now, they're more, I think, afraid to ask questions than they once were. There was a study that they're afraid to open up right away. But I think with apps like Tinder and all the other ones, you can ask your questions ahead of time and really get to know the person beforehand. So while maybe you set yourself up for failure, it's almost like a pre-interview by DMing them on Tinder before the actual thing. When it's the real interview, you already get a sense of if this person's resume is qualified or not.
True. However, haven't you ever met somebody and you just get like a creepy feeling from them? And maybe it's more of a chick thing.
Mhm.
There are people, and I say this all the time, like what we consider sexual harassment now. Everything's sexual harassment. Everybody's offended, right? Like back in the day, you know, I was working in corporate America, and everybody joked around, and it was, you know, sexual innuendo and everything, and it was
Right.
funny. But I worked with one guy, Joe. I don't even remember Joe's last name, but I will never forget his face. And he was nice. But there was this creep factor about Joe. So any of the other guys that I worked with could say, wow, I really like that dress. You look really good today. And I'd say, oh, thank you. Joe says it, and I feel like I need to take a shower because there's creep factor, right? So you don't get that over the internet, right? So you can only get that if you're in person. So now you meet this guy who looks good and, you know, answers all the questions right. And then when you meet him, by the time dessert comes, you just want to crawl out the bathroom window because there's an ick factor there that they exude, like a creep factor.
Yeah, and I think people like Joe, whatever his last name is, I think have ruined it for other people. So you're absolutely right. You can't diagnose that creep factor, or can you? Because I would argue that a user is going to be more creepy over DM than they're going to be in person. In the person, you don't really want to ask sort of uncomfortable questions, but it's so much easier to do it behind a message board when your first name doesn't even have to be real. You can say, well, I'm not going to give you my real name until we meet in person, which a lot of people I think do. Like, my name
Oh,
might be Anna on Tinder, then you meet them and their name's Rachel. So probably Joe is probably Todd on Tinder. So I also think you might be able to diagnose the creep factor sooner through an app like Tinder.
yeah, that's the other thing, the name. Certain names I
Yeah.
don't like. And then I don't like you because I don't like the name because I knew someone who had your name, didn't like him.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of Joes out there ruining it for a lot of guys. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but see, I don't know if Joe was a creepy
Mhm.
guy, like
Right.
in general. He just, for me, and I'm sure it doesn't come across that way for everybody, but
Mhm.
for me, he- I don't know what it was. It was the way he said things.
Mhm.
It was the package that just made Joe like a lurker, like creepy, like, "Ugh,"
Mhm.
you know, like, I don't want to be working in the office with him late, you know, like that type of thing. Other guys you're totally fine with, and they could be saying like some really flirty type stuff with you, and you're just laughing and joking because you know they're just joking with you, and you're just joking with them, and it's okay, and everybody feels great, and everybody, goes home. It's fantastic. So, Al here says that there is an app where you can set your phone to ring and get you out of a blind date.
Huh.
And
That's interesting.
yeah, there's another one. When I was living in Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas, Gillies, where they filmed Urban Cowboy, John Travolta. What was that? What was the one with John Travolta? The cowboy movie with John Travolta. Somebody help me.
Uh,
You know which one I'm talking about? Like,
no, I don't.
I think maybe it was Urban Cowboy. They filmed it at Gillies. It's this famous, huge bar at the Stockyards. It's like a nightclub bar at the Stockyards in Fort Worth, and I'm talking sawdust on the floor, and it has just room after room after room. They had 2 telephone booths there, and you could pick the background sound: hospital, airport, whatever to get the background sound. So if you were calling to say, "Hey, I got stuck
Right.
at the airport," to make up an excuse, it had airport sounds behind you. It was pretty ingenious.
That's a great idea. I mean, I've used that when I was at like a meeting I really wanted to get out of. I'll just say, "Oh, it's really important. My friend seems upset." So it's great to have that, because the best way to get out of anything is just pretending you have an abrupt phone call. But you're right. If it's an airport, you need that on the background. So I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But that should be a feature that those apps should charge for. I mean, maybe an extra $10 to $15 a month. I bet a lot of
Yeah.
people would pay for that. So I didn't know that, but I think Al is onto something there.
Yeah, the ring, the
Yeah.
ring. Let's see. Barry says the only good thing about the woke loser movement is weed is at the bottom of the cops' duty. You guys sound good stoned. Oh, Barry, it's been a long time since high school, and some things never change. But he knew it was Urban Cowboy. Yes, Urban Cowboy was filmed there.
Oh, but one point I
Ty
do
has
want to
already
make.
passed out.
One thing I do want to make is that, so speaking of woke, if you meet somebody in person, it takes a while to know if they're woke or not. Like, you either have to bring up a subject or they have to do something where you can tell. With Tinder, you already know, because they either have their pronouns in their bios, a mask on, their vaccination status, or their interests will be like BLM and transactivist movement and like
And the Ukrainian
anti-racist.
flag.
White Fragility, my favorite books. You know right away. That's a huge advantage. I mean, there's so many
That's
people.
true.
There's so many people I come across, Mary. I don't know if they're woke or not until I really get to know them. But on an app like that, I can tell right away. So woke or not, and then you can swipe based on if they're woke or not.
It's funny. I have a friend who lives in DC, and she's single, and she was dating on a conservative website, so that you already know. Like, she was looking
Right.
at a conservative website. Now she has switched over to a Catholic website because it's important to her, and so now she's dating some guys from the Catholic website, because you kind of tend to know what you get, but they could be woke. So, but I don't know. Maybe you can put those things on your bio that say, "Hey, I'm not woke. I don't want to deal. I don't want woke. I don't want those things." And then to just keep going. Like, if they have their pronouns in their bio, just
Yeah,
swipe left,
although
right.
I will say though, that test has worked for most of the time I've been on the internet. But I did meet somebody, not on Tinder, just through Twitter, just somebody actually in the business, and they had the pronouns in the bio. So when they first DM'd me, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna write about me or complain." Like, I knew right away they probably don't like me. Then I found out that the person put it in there only for their agent and their company. So it does seem like there are people who have to put that in there now just to appease their bosses. So they're not woke, they're just cowardly. I think cowardly is bad
Right.
enough, but woke is even worse. I might be able to deal with somebody who has to do it to keep their job, but that's only happened one time. That can happen. So my advice is, just because he/she or zer, whatever the new ones are, that doesn't necessarily mean they're woke. It just means, in all likelihood.
Okay. If it's not he, she, then they're woke. If they've got
That's true. Yes, that's what
whatever it is, they're
that
woke.
Zer.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a Zer tweet at me a couple of weeks ago, and the person was exactly what you would imagine, like Ivy League educated, like
Purple hair.
white, not purple hair, brown hair, but
Okay.
like privileged white woman, recommending her friends read certain books and very outraged by everything. I believe she was a professor too, so that's usually, part of the deal.
Of course, tenured, so they could just live their little lives and do whatever they want, and everybody has to listen to them, and they could do whatever they want. Conservatives really need to get on that. Ron, he got a creepy vibe from that Chasing New Jersey, Chasing News guy. I'm not going to say the name. Note, haven't met him in person. I don't even know who he's talking about.
Yeah,
I don't know who you're talking about, Ron. That might be like a News 12 news. I don't know who that is.
Right.
Huh. Barry says, just bring up Trump's name.
You could do that. Just saying as simple as like, well, okay, so I got a good one for you. So instead of being blunt about it, you can say, hey, are you following the news? Say, I'm a news watcher. And no matter what they say, you'd be like, well, I'm just reading the news story about Trump. You're guaranteed to get some reaction. Maybe it's like, oh, he deserves to be arrested, or this is a witch hunt. So you'll know right away, but you can ease into it. You don't want to start a conversation saying, do you like Trump or not? You want to bring up something that Trump's involved in, which is pretty much everything.
Yeah. Over on Gitter, I think this is Mountain Man 105, says Trump 737 equals the white Bronco. And he also said that trans people love Tinder. I don't know if that's true.
Could be. There might be an option where you can decide if you want trans people in your flow or not. I don't know for sure, but that might be an option. There's a lot of options. Like you can pick people by like their skin color, weight, height, and all that. Now you can narrow it down to exactly the person you want.
Oh, okay. But see, the problem with that is, because one of my other favorite shows is Married at First Sight. And these are people who stink at the dating game, and they keep picking losers. So they trust these experts to pick someone for them, and they get legally married. Have you seen the show?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's been on. They're like in season 14. And now they have Married at First Sight UK, Married at First Sight Australia. And they go through this rigorous process to weed these people out. And they have a psychiatrist, they have a sex expert, they have a spiritual guy. And they sit down and all of them interview these people, and they, make sure they're ready to get married, and, why are you doing this? And they go through this whole long, extensive process. You don't see any of that. But what you see are them picking, they've narrowed it down to the people. And then they match. They put matches together that they think will work in this one city, like Dallas or Boston or Philly, whatever. And they match them. These people don't know who they're getting married to. They find out when they go and tell them you're getting married. You're going to get married in 10 days. We found you a match. They get married in 10 days. They have to tell their families, yeah, I got picked. I'm doing this. The women go and get a dress. The men go and get a tuxedo. They follow them. They still don't know who they're getting married. They don't know who they're marrying until she walks down the aisle and they lay eyes on each other for the first time. Now, the reason I bring this all up is that a lot of times at first, the bugaboo for a lot of these couples is, well, she doesn't look like what I normally go for, or he doesn't look like what I normally go for, right? So there's a lot of that going on. But a lot of time, looks fade, stupid's forever, right? So just because they may not look exactly like what you normally go for, yes, you have to have that attraction, but you really have to fall in love with someone's personality. How many times, I can't speak for you, but for me, I've met guys that were hot. You're just like, oh my God, this guy's so hot. And then after a couple of months, I'm like, okay, you're a jerk. You're just a jerk. And they're no longer attractive to me at all. Like, just not even at all. I've worked with people that were very attractive when we're like, oh, you get to work with him. And I'm like, he's an ass. Just like, no, not even. Like, how do you work with him? I'm like, because he's a jerk. So for me, you can be super hot, but if you're like cocky and arrogant, or just a jerk in other ways, like, automatically to me, I do not think you are good looking at all anymore. So I think that's ultimately more important.
Well, so bringing that up, I had this friend a couple of years ago. I was talking to her. She actually said when she comes across somebody on these apps that are like super attractive, she actually swipes no, because she says the more attractive, the more likely they are to be a jerk at some point. I think some people are conditioned to look for average looks, the hope that the personality is going to make up for it. I think there's something to that, right? It tends
Yeah.
to be the more attractive people might be nicer at first because it's part of their charm, but
Mm-hmm.
usually the way you are early on is somewhat inauthentic. I've actually found the
100%.
more off-putting people early on tend to be the much more likable person once you open up to them because I think first impressions are often inauthentic.
Oh yeah, well, especially first dates, like the first time you're
Definitely.
meeting, because everybody's putting their best person
Right.
forward, right? Their best self forward. But so that's why I'm like, if you meet someone out somewhere, if you go to a
Right.
friend's barbecue and somebody there who's a friend, and you meet there, you're not putting your best. You just showed up. This is who you are,
Yeah,
and
definitely. It's like
that's why I think it's better.
yeah, it's like, when somebody so all the time people send me their written work. I wanna know, like, my thoughts on it and if they could do it all the time. But the thing always is when you have somebody proofread, edit a story, it always looks better than what it would be like every single day you're writing. It's the same thing for, like, a first date. They come all edited, buttoned up, but what's it gonna be like when they don't have that access every single day? So I actually think that show you're talking about makes a lot of sense. Now, I think some people would be off put by it just because looks matter so much to them. But I think
Yeah.
long term, that strategy could make sense for a lot of people. I'm not surprised if it does.
Well, it's interesting because they probably have about a maybe 40% success rate, with their matches. Because it's amazing.
Right.
Number one, the number of people who don't know how to communicate. They just talk over each other. They
Yeah.
don't listen to what the other person's saying. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Right.
because we work in media, so we
Yeah.
understand you can't talk over each other. That can't be. So these people just and they cut each other off and it's horrible. So nobody's hearing anything. Their communication skills are awful, or they just can't get past the looks. They just can't do it. They can't see deeper than the surface. And that's a flaw in them, I think. You have to learn to look deeper than the surface because, like I said, looks change. And Al says, when I caught my girlfriend, I knew there was no one else I would ever want. I got lucky and I was right. And then he says, looks change faster than you realize. And
Yeah.
that's true.
Absolutely. It's like that decision making people have when they make a decision for temporary enjoyment, but a permanent headache. It's the same thing there, right? You need to think permanently, not temporary, and looks are the ultimate temporary satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. He said girlfriend's eyes. When I caught my girlfriend's eyes, not my girlfriend's eye. He meant EYE and not
Right, right, right.
the letter I.
Got you.
I got you, Al. So, all right. So, what else do I need to know about Tinder, or should we move on to the what we should be looking for in somebody?
So I think the big thing for you is I'm going to put you to the test. So part of it is a bio. What would your bio be, Mary Walter? I know you're married, but just hypothetically, if you made one right now, what would your bio be? Because it has to be something that catches people right away or you fail.
Okay. My first thing is looking for someone who's not annoying,
Okay, that works.
not
Pretty simple but
not
effective.
not high maintenance,
Okay,
um, like confident but not cocky.
perfect.
Because confidence is sexy, cocky is annoying.
Mhm.
Um, employed, can,
Reasonable.
can, can pay your own bills. Um, I don't know how much I would put in about looks because, again, I just, that to me isn't as important. It's just not, because to me, attraction's so much more. So maybe I would put that in there. To me, attraction is, below the surface. So, I'm not going to judge you on the looks. Unless, of course, here's my thing. People who are like really like have let themselves go, who don't take care of themselves, that's a turn off to me just because it shows you don't care. You don't care
Right.
about yourself. So if you don't care about yourself, you're not going to care about me.
So I think that's a
I
great start to a bio. Like I mean,
I,
some
I
people
want a
spend
gentleman
months.
too. I also want, excuse me, I also want someone who's a gentleman and
Okay.
someone who has a command of basic common courtesy and manners. If you can't be polite outside the home, you can't be polite inside the home. So I want a man who's going to open a door for me. I want a man who, if we go to a restaurant, you pull my chair out for me. Like and I will treat you like a gentleman in return. You treat me like a lady, I will treat you like a gentleman. And manners are free, so there's no excuse for not having them. So I think that bar is pretty low.
Yeah, well, I think it was. I think now though, I mean, like, I don't know if that bar's high, but I don't know if a lot of guys think about that stuff. So I mean, they might accept it once they see it, but I don't think when they're going on the app that they're thinking that's the type of stuff they need to include and be. So I think that might be more educational for them than I would say they would think going into it, because I think just the way society has changed, they might think that type of stuff is offensive because of this whole movement of like strong, independent women. I think they've been misled to think like what you call manners is offensive.
Well, do you really want a woman then who's offended if you open the door? And so everything you do, she's going to be like, I can do that for myself. Like, do you really want that? That's a great way to weed them out.
It is that is a good way. That should actually be the top of every guy's priority list, but I don't think it is. But if I were to give them advice, I would say take Mary's advice on that one.
Thank you. I was, let's see, narcissism, the other N word. Yes, exactly. So when I was at CPAC, it's all conservatives, right? And everybody hangs out in this one bar because, there's two bars, one was closed, so everybody was in one bar. And you'll see Carrie Lake, and you'll see this one, you'll see that one, and then there's just like the rest of us, the normal people, hanging around. So I went and I was sitting down at a table, and there were three guys at the table. They're like, "Oh, come and sit with us, come on over." And I knew them. All three of them stood up when I came to the table. And one of them pulled a chair out for me. I was like, oh my God, that was just the hottest thing ever.
Do you think that would happen if you were at a liberal event?
No.
Neither do I.
Oh, no. Because the woman could probably just pick the table up and move it so she could sit down. And she'd be offended. How dare you think I'm a woman?
Or don't you say, wait, why are you assuming I'm a woman? Did you look at my pronouns in my bio? Don't just assume.
Exactly. But I have to tell you, it was so refreshing. The last time that happened to me was at the Trump. My husband and I were there for our anniversary because he came down to DC, and we were sitting at the Trump Hotel, and we were just having drinks downstairs in the Trump in the lobby there, because during the Trump administration, that was the place to see and be seen. You saw everybody there.
Right.
And there was a table with Matt Schlapp, Raheem Kassam, and Nigel Farage. And I know Matt and Raheem, and I had interviewed Nigel many times, but I had never met him in person. So I said to my husband, I said, excuse me, I'm just going to go over and say hello and introduce myself to Nigel Farage, because I've interviewed him so many times. I walked over to the table. All three of them stood up. I'm like, yes. It's awesome.
Yeah, very interesting. But no, I think your bio is off to a great start if you ever needed to use one. Very good initial course. I don't know if it's me giving the rundown or you just being a fast learning student, but we're off to a really stellar start.
Woohoo! There's hope for me yet. Just, honey, are you listening? I'm dumping you.
I mean, with that bio, he should at least be, I would say, at least knowing how effective that bio could be, could always change his approach to certain things, if need be.
Exactly, if need be.
Right.
But I'm also too tired at this point in my life to really deal. So he just, what? He just yelled at me and said, okay. It's like, whatever. But I'm also at this point in my life, I'm really tired. I don't have time for shenanigans. I don't have time for games. I don't, like I said, don't be annoying. So that's where the bar is for me, because I'm old. Let's see. Barry says, hi, I'm Mary Walter. I'm down to earth. And in high school, I dated Eric and would visit cars and Barry at the chicken coop with the Staten Island dump smell. So there was a big chicken farm where I grew up. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. And Barry, I didn't know you worked there. I knew Pete Cag worked there. Yeah, and I knew the Eric you said that I dated. He had to clarify which Eric I was dating at the time. I know who it was. But yeah, we would go visit this guy we worked with. I didn't know you worked there too. We visited this one friend of ours, and we go visit him working at the chicken farm. And it didn't smell like Staten Island, it just smelled like a big farm, which where I grew up, that smell was everywhere because there were a lot of farms. So I don't find the smell of the 4-H fair offensive. Let's just say that. I just go, oh, my childhood.
Right.
My childhood. Chickens, goats, cows,
Eric.
hair. Eric sells Dunkin' Donuts a lot because that's where he worked. Oh wow, Bear. Like I said, Barry, let me know if you worked there. I didn't know you worked there. Okay. So I have a piece that I wanted to discuss, and it kind of just dovetails with all of what we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's a video on TikTok, and it's by a guy named Jacob Lucas, who is a self-styled professional dating coach. And I told Bobby before, I looked at it and I thought this dating coach was like 12. All right, maybe he's just a young looking, like early 20s. I don't know how professional you are at that point in your life. I'd rather take professional dating advice from someone who's like 50, because my feeling is they've got a lot more years and experience and knowledge under their belt than the early 20 something professional dating coach. Let's see. Lucas claims he has helped millions of people get the love life they have always wanted through his real life methods. He says, I'm a professional dating coach, and these are 5 things that your boyfriend should be doing for you that are the bare minimum.
Okay, let's hear him.
The man you are dating should be good with his phone. You should not have to ask a full-grown man to return your calls or your texts. When he's available, he should do that anyway. Yeah.
We're going to break them down one by one, or a recap at the end?
However, that's just one of them. The next one, if you have something to say as we go along, feel free. Right. Jump in. Anybody else wants to jump in? Feel free. The boyfriend in question should take you on a date at least once a week, unless you're in a long distance relationship. People might say that's a lot, but I'm telling you, it's not. And comments to that, some people were saying once a week in this economy, and somebody else said, well, weekly dates don't need to be expensive. You can make dinner together, you can watch a movie, you can go on a walk together. It's not about the cost, it's about the quality. The quality.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Spend together, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the first one can be misconstrued, but I think the second one, he's spot on.
Yeah. Let's see. Your boyfriend should be your biggest cheerleader. If he's not, something's not right.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Maybe this kid's onto something, or he talked to his mom. And the last one is he should always make you feel wanted.
Yeah, I think those ones, 'cause if you don't, I think it's hard to be happy. I mean, I think support, going back to the cheerleading one, I would say should be a must for everybody, guy or girl, just because I think in order to chase your dream, you need the person that you're closest with to also buy into your dream. I think if you look at divorce rates, a lot of people say, well, my husband or wife didn't agree with my mission in life. I think that is so important. So I think that one about being the cheerleader, the biggest supporter, is arguably top of the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some people whose dreams in life and goals in life, I want to be a basketball player. Right. You're like, well, that's great, honey, but you're 5'8", and I have seen some people who just have unrealistic dreams and goals, and they spend their whole life chasing this. And thinking of a couple that's older and retired now, but he's just always chased what his thing is. He's more cerebral, right. Reads a lot, likes to do those types of things. And she's not working 3 jobs. And I think it's okay to be a cheerleader to a point. And then you're like, okay, let's pump the brakes here, dude.
Right. Well, I think because being a cheerleader, in some ways, you want that person to win. So I think being a supportive also requires you to be able to sit down and have an honest conversation. Like, hey, that's not realistic. Like if somebody says, my dream is to be the next LeBron James, and they're like, well, you're never going to be that. I think you need somebody in your life to be able to tell you, hey, I want you to succeed, but that's not realistic. So if you prioritize that, you're not going to succeed. So I think support can also be tough love.
Yeah, that's very true. But you have to be able to present it in the right way, and that goes back to communication. Madman 105 says Bridgewater smells like Johns Manville. No, it does not. And I was in Martinsville, dude. The Martinsville section of Bridgewater, but at the time, all of Bridgewater was like that. It doesn't smell like Johns Manville. Get out of here. That's where we grew up. Barry said the chicken farm. It smelled like a dead man. I caddied in Warrenville. Oh, okay. Um, so let me ask you. People were asking for the same a list of 5 things that a bare minimum that a man should expect from a woman. Are they the same?
I would say no. How about you? I would say there's a little crossover, but not universal.
Okay, so the whole phone thing, the man should be good with his phone. You should not have to ask a full-grown man to return your calls or your texts. Men are horrible with communication. So that's why I think if he's into you, if he's interested, he will communicate with you, right? If a
I
man's
agree.
not super
Right.
interested in you, he's not. That's why he doesn't communicate as much. You should take that as a huge sign. But
Right.
women in general tend to be good communicators. So I don't think that that's something that a man really has to expect from a woman, because I think like we just do that anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think that one would be on their list. And what was that last one that was on there? Was it about making?
Yeah, he should always make you feel wanted.
Yeah, that
I
would
think
probably still
that's,
be on. I think that's probably universal. That one.
yeah.
Although I think the one difference is I think guys. I don't know if "wanted" is always the right word. I think they want to feel needed, maybe more than just wanted, like that they have a role in their relationship, which I think has been a big problem for a lot of
Hmm.
guys now. They don't feel they have a role. So I think needed, either if that's the same one as wanted, if not, I think that would definitely make their list. Like they want to feel like they have a role, that they're providing something, whether it be
Ooh,
financial or so. I think that is a key for almost all guys.
I like that. I think that's true. If anybody wants to jump in with things that you think should be on this list, please do. Al says chances are a girl will look like her mother when she's older, so make sure you see her mother's picture. I don't buy that. I think that that's an old wives' tale. I know I look more like my dad's side of the family than my mom's
Right.
side. You know, you put me with my cousins from my father's side of the family. I'm the only girl, and I just look like them in a dress. You know, it's just like we
Right.
just look all exactly alike. We all got the German side. Like those German genes are very strong. That's what we all look like. Um, my mom, my mom looks different than I do. Like I don't even think there's a lot of my mom in me. If you see me, I'm definitely much more my dad. But thankfully, I don't look like him when he was my age. And don't forget, with the advances in skincare, surgery if you need it, but there are so many other things now that I think have changed the aging process that my mom doesn't look anything like her mom did when she was her age. Like I
Yeah.
remember what my grandmother looked like, and I look at my mom and I'm like, I don't think she looks like my grandmother at all.
Well, I even think you turn on like a movie from the 70s or 80s, like people don't look the same as they did. Like they're different.
No.
Like they're almost like people are different now, whether it be weight or just stress levels, but they look different. You can tell usually when you're watching a movie where it's from based on how the people look. So I agree. I don't think looking at somebody's parents really tells much of a story at all. I mean, outside of maybe like you can pick up certain trends, like, hey, his whole family is bald, so maybe he's going to be bald. But even that seems to not be a guarantee.
Well, I thought the baldness gene comes through the mother side, through the woman's
Oh,
side.
does it?
Because my father's side, everybody, the men all had the white blonde hair, blue eyes, white blonde
Okay.
hair, and my father, his brother, bald. My baby brother, though, didn't get the white blonde hair. I didn't get the white blonde hair because my brother, he's got he's kind of getting the balding in the back a little bit, but he's got my mother's side, the hair from my mother's side. I got more
Yeah.
my father's side, but he's got my mother's side. Yeah, so I don't know. I think things change a lot. So what else do you expect from a woman? If I say I want a man who's gonna, I think it's hot when guys stand up when you walk to the
Mhm.
table, or a man stands up and holds out the chair for you just to be nice, or holds the door. Every time I get in or out of the car, not so much out like at the grocery store, but in the car, my husband opens the car door for me every single time, no matter where we are.
Hmm.
If we're going somewhere nice, he always says to me, like, I'm not going to do it. It's so funny. He'll go, don't get out of the car. I will open the door for you. I'm like, okay. And so like he walks around the car and he opens the door for me if we're like somewhere really nice, or if
Right.
we're on a date, he'll do something like that. I just think those things are really nice. So what should women be doing though to treat him like
I
a gentleman?
Well, I think one is showing appreciation, right? If you go out of your way, or even you go out of your way, but if you do that stuff and there's no appreciation, you don't sense it, it's just like take it for granted, or maybe they still seem upset. I think guys want to do things where they think it was a win. So I think someone that can show appreciation is also very important.
That's a really good point. I think that
Yeah,
that's why, and it's really true because that's why men will come in and go, "I took the garbage out." I'm like, "Oh, good for
exactly.
you."
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
good for you. I cleaned all the toilets yesterday, but nobody gave me a gold star, you know.
Yeah. I think
But sure, good job.
right, because I think guy they wanna feel wanted, they wanna feel appreciated, and I think they wanna feel successful. I think those are the 3 things. So I think they need to find someone who can help them get to those 3 points.
Interesting. Al says, I do that too. You know what's interesting? This conversation is great, but I wonder if like for gay couples it's different. I don't
Mm.
know. Like, do both men in a gay relationship both want to feel recognized? Could you even imagine what that's like? It's constantly,
Yeah.
I swept the floor. Well, I walked the dog. Well, I did this. Well, I did that. Like, is it just a constant parade of that?
Right, well, I think that's why I think a lot of what I always say, like, what society preaches has been damaging because I think there are a lot of guys who, if they get into a marriage where their wife is more successful, I think that's intimidating for them because it's harder for them to feel needed, wanted, and successful. So I think that, I mean, it's the way it works a lot of times now, but I do think that has made it harder for both sides to click because I think when they're both chasing success, it can become a competition, at least for the guy. And if it doesn't go their way, a lot of them will never be happy because they'll feel useless. I mean, you've seen so many quotes say, "Well, if I can't provide that to it, what can I actually provide?" So I think insecurity is a huge factor in with if a relationship's going to last or not.
You know what? I'm going to pull up a story here. Give me 2 seconds. In the meantime, Barry says you can read what he wants. What he says there. Okay. He says, I think, is that from a song? I want a woman with extensions in her hair, bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair, a trendy bad attitude who likes Tom Jones. My hunch is that's a song.
Either that or he needs to start writing songs. It's a pretty good line.
Yeah. And I do love Tom Jones. I love a good Tom Jones tune. I mean, come on. It's so retro. It's so awesome. I'm totally into the whole Mad Men. I was born in the wrong era. Totally born in the wrong era. Matt Man 105 says women should not out order men at a restaurant.
I mean, I guess that's possible. I think that's reasonable.
So,
I haven't thought of that one, but I think that makes sense.
so we're on it. We totally just trashed everything we were going to talk about tonight. We just got off on these tangents, which is it's been fun for me. So I hope other people have enjoyed it. But which generation are you? Gen Z? Which 18 to 29?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So 63% of men aged 18 to 29 say they're single and they've given up on dating.
Hmm.
And I thought that was interesting. The number of single young men is nearly twice that of single young women, indicating a large breakdown in the social, romantic, and sexual lives of American men. And the question is why? And you may have hit the nail on the head. It says our culture has of convenience has made dating more difficult for men because they're forced into a hyper competitive, superficial environment that emphasizes instant gratification over true human connection because there's more men than there are women in your age
Right.
group. Um, and he said nothing has done more damage to the dating landscape than dating apps, social media, and porn. The advent of relationships started with Match in 1995. According to this survey of over 6,000 adults, 53% of adults ages 18 to 29 have found someone to date on an app or a site. However, the census shows that marriage is at an all-time low. For every 1,000, yeah, all-time low. They say it's easier for men to date, but it leads them to have a fickle attitude towards relationships, constantly searching for the next thing instead of committing to one person.
I think we also take a full circle. Like one of the things you said initially is confidence is key. And I think if you look at the things I talked about, want success and feel needed, I think if they don't feel those things, they're not going to be confident. So I think both sides end up happy. And it can be so many of those trends we talked about with maybe women going to school longer and getting better degrees or getting better paying jobs
Yeah.
at times. So I think you couple all that together, and I think you have a situation where the guy can't be happy, and because of maybe the mood he's in, maybe he's feeling down or not as confident or not as successful, that contributes to the things that you said you want in a guy. All of a sudden he can't do that. So it's all together. I'm not surprised to see that result by any means.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that goes hand in hand with you brought up women making more money and getting,
Right,
degrees, more women going to college, more women the
right,
greater percentage of women who go to college graduate than men. They tend to
right.
drop out more. Women are making, bigger bucks coming out of college. I look at my three nieces, they're killing it. The youngest
Yeah.
one is a junior at Virginia Tech, and she's
Mhm.
a Dean's List majoring in engineering. What is it? Industrial and structural engineering.
Yeah, I mean, great degrees that probably, secure a lot of opportunities
Yeah,
and great financial success on the way. So I think if she's going to marry, it's gonna be hard for her or not hard, but not a
yeah,
lot
it
of
is.
guys are gonna be able to match her in that degree or maybe that trajectory. So I think a lot
Exactly.
of things that go back to what I talked about, it's gonna be much harder for him to feel that way if he's with someone who has a really successful degree and career path.
Yeah, it's very hard because men traditionally make more, and that's kind of a blow to
Right.
the ego. They say
Yes.
here though, because of the dating apps, which started this whole conversation,
Mhm.
when a minor red flag appears in a relationship that is otherwise going smoothly, why stick around and work it out when thousands of other choices are right at your fingertips? Young men are making that calculation every day on dating apps, and they're siding with the latter choice. Just I'm not going to up bump in the
Right.
road. See ya. I'm out.
Well, that's
And move on.
Yeah, that's a good point because that's like what I would say the Netflixization of society. When you have so many options, you can nitpick, right? Like you can watch a show and say, well, I don't like this actor. I'm just going to go switch to a new one. We have so many options at our disposal in every facet of life now that we can be choosy. And I think you can chase perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. So you end up keep on chasing and never settle for something because you have this
Yeah.
idea you're looking for perfect, but perfect's not out there, whether it's on Tinder or Netflix or anywhere.
Yeah, 100%. Al says, as I'm listening, I realize people make it too difficult. That's very true. If you
Yeah.
watch some of these reality shows that I watch, I'm like, you are making this way more complicated than it needs to be. Says it's not Barry's lyrics were from not his. Let's see. Al says, when I met Lana, I sent her every bad picture of me I could find. She asked why. I said, because if you accept the bad, you'll enjoy the good.
Yeah, I
That's
think that
interesting.
I like that idea. That's like, yeah, that's a good idea because you don't have to worry about what is she gonna think of my ugly picture. If you already know and you've already passed that test, it really gives you a lot of ease about things that could come. So I think it's a pretty smart strategy. Although I don't know if a lot of people are confident enough to do that because you're taking a big risk.
Absolutely. So you talk about social media.
Mm,
They say on social media, people are encouraged to only show their best, even if it's fake. With
mhm,
advancements in facial recognition technology, many times men are looking at women through heavily filtered and airbrushed lenses. We're geniuses. Look at this. We've already solved
right.
it.
Mhm.
Um, what women reap the benefit of online attention. Men are left wondering how the dating pool has gotten so far out of reach. Consequently, those same women who are marketing themselves as something they're not are left without a partner and wondering where all the good men have gone.
That is interesting. I
It's a
totally can
lose
see that.
lose.
Yeah, and we talked about that just a minute ago. The lose lose. If the guy's not feeling confident, I don't think he's going to check off the boxes that maybe the woman wants or her five needs. So yeah, I think a lot of this has become lose lose for both sides. So that study about that being at what all time low between 18 and 29 that doesn't surprise me at all. I think what's a little bit frightening about it is that I don't see that changing. I think that's only going to become more prevalent because these issues are not going away. They're really only escalating.
And they end with coupled with let's see, wait a second. Where did it go? Darn it. Oh, flirting face to face leaves a bigger impression on the potential for a relationship than reacting to a girl's Instagram stories with the flame emoji. See, face to face, the best way.
Yeah, you got me on that one. Yeah, that was your biggest knock on Tinder. I think I'll concede to you that one is right.
Okay. That's just because they say so in the article. Um, And then they say, coupled with the barrage of women on dating apps, the culture of constant comparison fostered by social media makes it hard for men to commit to a relationship and settle down. If that wasn't enough, now even men's greatest source of dating motivation has been co-opted by porn. They say there's no doubt that lust is the strongest driving motivation for men when it comes to dating. It sparks initial attraction and passion and draws people together. Ultimately, though, lust may fade, but the emotional connection typically built upon that initial sense of attraction is what can determine a relationship's success. Porn completely destroys this dynamic because it shifts men's reward system to simply being carnal and physical in nature, but lacking the emotional connection necessary for healthy relationships. Porn is easier than ever to consume. 40 million U.S. adults regularly visit pornography websites. 10% of U.S. adults admit to having an addiction to internet porn. 67% of 13-year-old boys have seen at least one pornographic image on some sort of digital device in the past year. And by the age of 18, that number rises to 90%.
Wow. Yeah, I think that goes back to that Netflixization, just access to so much whenever you want. Those numbers are staggering, though. Like, I mean, I assume it's high, but like 90% was it by 18? I mean, that's almost everybody. I mean, besides people who are probably don't have internet access.
The Amish. It's the Amish.
Yeah, the Amish. Those I don't know. They don't know how to use the internet. Like, I bet you that 10% is not just people choosing not to. Maybe they just don't have access to it.
Yeah. They say the good news is that men can fix this. They say that the breakdown of relationships between men and women is startling. It's detrimental to a healthy society, but the good news is that men can fix this. The remedy is easier than we think. Leave the dating apps, stop watching porn, and go talk to women in real life.
Yeah, I think that's the one positive, because everything in that study you mentioned is very ominous. I would say that's the one positive, wouldn't you? I mean, the rest of it, you can't take a lot of silver linings from. I mean, it's all true, and I believe it all, but I think a lot of it is not only frightening, but going to get worse.
Barry says, heading to the city. Great show. Good night, all. Thanks for joining us, Barry. Have fun. Be careful. Let's see. Al says it's a risk what he does with his pictures, sending the bad pictures, right? Saying that like if you accept the bad, you'll love the good. But in the end, I won't get hurt later. I don't believe in tricking someone, and that's what dating has become.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. This has been a lot of fun. Look at us. And I'm not going to do a Real Housewives update today because the last episode was really boring.
Okay.
So I'm not going to do that. And you don't watch it. And Christine is not here to pop in at 8 o'clock. She was in New Jersey. She had to go to Newark she's a lawyer, an immigration lawyer, and she got stuck. So she can't do the update with us at 8 o'clock. Anyway, and like I said, this past episode was kind of boring. I think they're setting up. There's a lot setting up for next week. So I'm very excited for next week. That's what I'm looking forward to. So, all right, what do you have coming up? And people find you on Twitter? It's backwards, right? It's Burack Bobby.
It is backwards. I know I've been trying to get Twitter to change it. Some random guy became at Bobby Burack a long time ago. I knew it was, but the Twitter account's still locked. But yeah, you can follow me on there. I have some pieces coming up. One I think your listeners will find pretty interesting. There's a big conversation last week about what is woke. I really dig into the origin of woke and how I think it's actually a pretty vulnerable movement. I think we're starting to see cracks in it.
Interesting. Okay. What is woke? I'm making a note.
Yeah, I think I'm working on it right now. Hopefully it's out tomorrow. I'm trying to position it where I don't release it when Trump gets indicted, but I waited for him today. So I might just have to take a risk because it would have been out today, but I tried to clear my schedule because that's just going to dominate everybody. So I'll be pretty mad if I put it out tomorrow and then all of a sudden he's indicted 5 minutes later and the story's just dead. But
dead, exactly. Do it on a weekend because then he's not going to get indicted on a weekend. But the rumor is it's tomorrow and that he will, he'll be I guess arraigned next week. Does it say wokeness is in rules for radicals? Yes, it is. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel if you have not. Please tell your friends. We got to get the algorithm back. to where it was. I
Right.
didn't realize that taking a couple days off was going to totally mess up the algorithm for us. So we're clawing back up from where, from further down the pile. So we would really appreciate it. Go back, watch some of the older podcasts here on, if you go to YouTube, look for Mary Walter Radio. And both these podcasts, the Life with Mary Walter podcasts and the Thursday night podcast, Mary Walter Radio, are both there. Join us on Thursday. I'm sure we're going to have a great political discussion. Saturday on Wendy Bell on Newsmax TV, 4:30 on Saturday, 3:30 on Sunday, and 6 a.m. Sunday morning. They just re-air it. So one show, they air it 3 times. Good bang for your buck. And next Tuesday on this show, as of right now, unless something happens with Trump, Sean Spicer will be joining us for the whole show, for most of the show anyway. We'll see what happens. So Sean Spicer will be joining us, and it's going to be non-political conversation with Sean, so it's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. Bobby, thank you so much. You are the best. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It was really a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, take care. Bye.
Plugged in and you lose control.